Hello and welcome to Wildcard Rewind. 2023 season is now over and what a way to end. Let's get down to it.
I just wanna rewind to when we were young at heart. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
I was so excited about the Super Bowl, I actually forgot to introduce us. So my name's Hannah and I will be your host for this evening. And as usual, I am joined by my two wonderful co-hosts, Paul and Max. And of course, one of us is looking super cool and grinning like a Cheshire cat. And I don't think it's just because his team won the Super Bowl. I think it might be because finally Paul managed to get one of his predictions right. And it only took the whole season for it to happen. So, good evening, Max. How are you?
I am ecstatic. I mean, it just doesn't get any better, right? Super Bowl champions, you can't beat it. It's what everybody wants at the start of the year. It's what we have here. I'm very sleep deprived as well, probably. So this could be a fun show.
Oh, have we lost Hannah?
See, this is what happened after the Chiefs beat the Bengals, right? Hannah's like dipped out. So now she's going to pretend that she's got some kind of internet issue when really just doesn't want to hear about me talking about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh, you had an eventful night as well, right? But for other reasons.
Yeah, so it was my best mate's stag do, and I've had 2 days of alcohol and football. And so it was a long day yesterday, but I was there start to finish, and I'm paying for it today. I'm paying for it.
Yeah, just suffering a little bit.
Yeah.
No, we also had. We got Hannah back here. We're just talking about Paul's very eventful stag do / Super Bowl watch party, Hannah. So he's suffering a bit today, but I said it's okay. I've got enough to say to cover for him, as you quite would imagine.
Yeah, I'm not wholly surprised. I think we might have a bit of another Mags monologue tonight, right?
Yes.
So it'll give Paul a breather anyway. Mm-hmm. So shall we get right to it? Shall we just have a quick look at the predictions of last week's guests and see how good they are at predicting things? So let's start with Kev, who I'm sure is no doubt really disappointed today because, of course, his Eagles lost to your mighty Chiefs, Mags. So he obviously predicted an Eagles win, and unfortunately that was incorrect. And he said Jalen Hurts would be the MVP. He might have had an MVP performance, but his team didn't come through for him. So I'm afraid that was also incorrect. Matt predicted an Eagles win, which was wrong. And he also thought that the Eagles would get more sacks. And that was incorrect because they actually had a big fat 0. And the Chiefs actually had 2. So go the Chiefs. Ali predicted an Eagles win, also incorrect. But he did predict over 4.5 total touchdowns. And he was correct because there was a massive 8 total TDs in this game, which I don't think any of us probably would have predicted. It was mental. It was so much fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So even though Ali had the audacity not to show up, he was in fact the winner of our guests' predictions because he managed to get a measly 1 correct. So see, it just shows predicting is not as easy as everyone thinks, right?
Exactly.
So
yes, 100% that.
There you are, Paul. You finally got a little bit of a reprieve. I think people will still drill you and laugh at your terrible attempt at predicting, but that's fine by us. So I did think about starting off with you, Mags, because I know you're desperate to talk about the game, but I was like, no, let's start with the neutral, hey? Before we get lots of talk about the Chiefs. Let's go to you, Paul, to start with. I'll let you get your bit out of the way and then you can have a bit of a rest. So you predicted a Chiefs win. And for the first time in the whole season, you were correct.
Yes, Paul.
Mags must actually be loving you right now. when you predicted my mighty Bengals, you gave us a loss. So I'm still really mad at you for that one. You did predict that Sanders would have more rushing yards than Pacheco, and unfortunately that was incorrect. Sanders only had 16 yards to Pacheco's 76. So he had quite a monster game, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So, Paul, what can you remember of the game from your hazy evening? Did you enjoy it? Go on, tell us what you thought.
So first of all, before we get into the game, I just want to say, okay, that I did this, and I've mentioned this on the show before. I did this playoff prediction thing, and the only game I got wrong was the Cowboys 49ers, and I predicted the Cowboys to win. So apart from that, I got everything else right, even down to the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. So I've had a good playoff run. You know, I thank you. No autographs, please. No autographs.
Shame you didn't do the same on the show, though, eh?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? And the second thing is, I covered all bases with this. Okay, so I predicted the Chiefs on the show, and now I can victory lap. But I put £10 on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl because if the Chiefs lost, I'd still be in the money, even though you were going to grill me about cursing your Chiefs and stuff. So it was a win-win situation for me. You know what I mean? So, but the game, right, let's get to this game. That was easily one of my top 5 favorite NFL games that I've ever watched.
Yeah.
That was incredible. It just had a bit of everything. It had a bit of everything. And I will say I'm glad the Chiefs won because I feel that there was Bolton's second pick 6. I thought that was quite a questionable call. I know there was in the rules there's something about he's caught it 2 feet. And for a fumble, I believe you need that extra step. So if you'd have had one more step or something, it would have been okay. But that's why they called it incomplete. And it was a bit, and I felt the Chiefs were slightly robbed there. But apart from that, I think it was just an incredible game to watch. It was just everything, you know, the Eagles in the first half turned up, and then Pat Mahomes getting hurt and limping off. And, you know, I seen it in our group chat, you know, it was, I think everyone at that moment when, if you can't bring Pat Mahomes back out on this field, that's it. It's game over at this point. And we all knew he was coming back out. We all knew he was going to come back out, but it was going to be what extent of Pat Mahomes we were going to get. And somehow I honestly think he looked better. And I don't know how, but I feel like he looked better in that second half. They looked electric, didn't they? They looked, you know, what was it? They every time they went up to the red zone, they scored, you know, and they had five drives in that, 5 drives, and every time they went up there, they just scored, and it you know, and yeah, that's partly the Eagles' defense didn't step up at that time, but you were just like, what can you do? You know, how do you stop somebody that even with 1 foot, you know, he's still managing to do everything? And, you know, I thought it was a bit shady. Did you see his long run in the fourth quarter? And the Eagles defenders were chasing him, and like it looked like they jumped on his ankle to sort of say, "No, we want you out of this game now, mate." You know. And,
I'd do the same thing if I was playing against them. Like, yeah.
But you know, I just think the Chiefs' second half was a game-winning half for them. You know what I mean? It was an unreal. I don't know what Andy Reid said to them at halftime, but they came out and they were unreal. I think that the Eagles' defense let them down. You know, I think to watch Kadarius Toney score his touchdown, it was great play design. That was to look, you know, he completely sent the defender the wrong way. And then they went back up the field and went, I tell you what we'll do. We'll do exactly the same thing on the other side of the field, and exactly the same outcome. You know, the defender's still running the wrong way, looking for him. Where's he gone? Where's Sky Moore gone? Like, you know, and it was just that to me, it was your Eagles D didn't show up, and like you said about Matt's prediction, they had 0 sacks. You know, this is a team that, you know, had the most sacks all season, and they had so many sacks. I believe that was the 3rd best season ever for sacks. I'm sure I've seen that at the start. Like, I think the record's 82, isn't it? And they got 78 sacks on the season. You know, and that's what level they've played at this year, and they couldn't get it done on the night, you know. And I suppose this goes back to what we were saying last week, where that's why I fancy the Chiefs, because they've been there. You know, this team, this coaching staff, these players, they've been there. They've been, you know, that's what, 3rd time in 5 years they've been to the Super Bowl. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I think this Eagles team will go back, and they're good enough to go back. But this time, I think experience showed, you know, and so commiserations to the Eagles and congratulations to the Chiefs. You know, I'll let somebody else have a say, even though I've said, you know, most of the talking points. Like, you know, you're welcome.
You're too tired now, Paul. That's it. That's you for the night, right?
I need a nap now.
So go on then, Mag. Should we get you to start talking before you go? Let's just say that your predictions, because you of course predicted a Chiefs win, which was correct. You did, however, say that Quez Watkins would have the first reception, which is incorrect. To be honest, I have no idea who it was, but it wasn't him. So
it was Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith, wasn't it?
Oh, well done. So it was wrong. Right, Mags, the stage is yours. We'll see everyone in 45 minutes. Go.
So, well, I obviously have a lot to say, but I'm going to try and I'll throw some questions in. So, you know, I don't just do one big soliloquy to the end of this show. So I'll throw in some questions to you guys. The game, what a game. I said before the shows, I can only really appreciate just how good it was when I watched the highlights today. And it just, you're right, Paul, I had a little bit of everything. I mean, first off, the Eagles, the Chiefs won the coin toss and gave the Eagles the ball. I loved that. Like, lots of questions about Jalen Hurts' shoulder. What can they do? I thought it was great to see right off the bat what they were able to do. Of course, the Eagles marched out and scored a touchdown. So you're like, that's not a good sign. And they did, using that unbelievable, like, quarterback. It's not even a sneak, right? There's nothing sneaky about it. It's like a quarterback blatant. Like, it's the complete opposite. They just charge through you and maul through you. Paul, what you got for that?
Quick question for you. Do you think that they could get the whole 10 yards doing the QB sneak in 4 turns?
I think so.
I think they could get the first down every time.
It's definitely possible for them to do that. And this is kind of my first question, you guys, before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the game. That is one of the most impressive plays in football. And there's a lot of talk about, the NFL are probably going to ban it. I think that would be just awful. I mean, it's like, just because one team is too good at something, you can't just ban it. Like, no other team is doing that. Like, you're not playing against the Chiefs and going, 1 yard to go. They're just going to sneak it in. I mean, the Chiefs are terrible at third and short. And no other team is able to do it apart from the Eagles. So I just think it would be incredibly unfair to ban a move just because one team have worked so hard at it and now are so unstoppable at it. I just think everyone else just needs to get better at stopping it. And why ban it? Like, I think they've worked hard to get it, so they deserve to have it. Do you think it should be banned, Hannah?
Well, I'm kind of confused as to why people are saying it needs to be banned anyway. Is it because linemen are pushing the QB so that he gets more yards, or what? Like, I don't really know what the issue is. Like you say, everyone has the opportunity to do it. It's not like, only that team has the opportunity to do it. So no, I don't see why it should be banned. I can understand why they're saying, oh well, just pushing the guy over the line, is not really a very good football move or proper or whatever. Right, fine. Maybe try and modify it if that's how you want to do it, but I don't see a reason to ban it, to be honest. Jacoby Brissett was really good at it this year as well. He used to go like 5 yards sneaking it and stuff like that. So he's probably the only other guy that could do it probably as good as Jalen Hurts. But no, I don't see any reason to ban it.
No. Paul?
I completely agree. I don't see a reason to ban it. I think it's, you know what I mean? Do you ban Christian McCaffrey because he can catch it, pass it, run it, do whatever? He's good at what he does. Do you go, oh, well, you can no longer run the ball? It's the Eagles have perfected something, I think before the game, I see they've done that QB sneak 37 times this year. They've executed it 33 times, and you're going, they're good at it, and they are, and that go to show. It was phenomenal to watch. Like, you know what I mean? They are really good at it. Why not go away and instead of going, let's ban it? Why not go away and go, how can we stop this? Is it what's the Chiefs lineman that was he sort of had enough of it and went, I'm just going to jump over the top of it and try and stop it that way.
6'8" Chris Jones.
Yeah. And you were like, he's trying to figure out how to stop it. He's not complaining about it. He's going, I need to, I can't stop it this way. How about I jump over it and try and stop it that way? And it's no, don't ban it. Don't ban it.
I suggested fighting fire with fire. If they're going to push someone over the line, I reckon the Chiefs and other teams should be allowed to pick someone up and throw them at Jalen Hurts. Like, just get Isaiah Pacheco and throw him over the line and hit Jalen Hurts with him. What do you think? Yeah. Get the punter. Get Bucker out there. He's light. Get him chucked over. Right? That's
two players holding an arm and a foot and just swinging him back, snap it and just throw him.
Yeah, absolutely. So look out for that next year because that's coming probably. But yeah, I think, and then the Chiefs respond to that with their own unstoppable play, which is Mahomes to Kelsey in the end zone. Like, we're going to ban that. Like, that's pretty much unstoppable this year. So yeah, and then it tied up at 7-7, and just before we get into the second half and Patrick Mahomes and the ankle, all that. I think we did mention Jalen Hurts. What? You will never find a more impressive losing quarterback in a Super Bowl than Jalen Hurts. That's one of the all-time great quarterback performances in a Super Bowl. I think it's comfortably like top 10 on metrics alone. Like, the guy almost had 400 rushing and throwing yards combined. Like, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. But we talked about that inexperience before the game. He dropped the ball for no reason. That's the biggest play. Jalen Hurts, under no pressure really, just drops the ball. Nick Bolton scoops it up, scores a touchdown. That one little blip, that one lapse, which maybe comes from a lack of experience in the big games under the bright lights, that is really where I think the game was turned, because that is a full, turnover, losing the points. Yeah. It was going to be hard to beat the Chiefs whenever you give away something like that. And Jalen Hurts, another question for you guys. He's got to get paid this year, right? His contract runs out in 2024. They've got to get this sorted in the offseason, right? That's got to be priority number 1 for the Eagles. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I think so. He's shown enough, hasn't he? He got them to a Super Bowl, basically almost won it. And the reason they lost wasn't him No. You say that he did drop the ball once, but other than that, he performed, impeccably. I don't think this should be or is any question marks on him as their franchise QB going forward. No. And he did all this with a busted shoulder as well. So, he has been really impressive. And the longer they leave it, the more it's going to cost them. So I think they need to get this nailed down now. Before he costs them even more of the earth.
Absolutely. Paul, you agree as well?
100% agree. Do you think he's maybe waiting to see what Lamar Jackson gets?
Good
to
point.
Sort of maybe have a ballpark figure of what he'd want.
Yeah. If I was his agent, I would probably do that.
You know what I mean?
No, go
I
on,
don't
Paul.
think he's anywhere near what like Mahomes got.
No.
And you know, there's always a risk with a rushing QB and injuries and stuff like that. So I kind of think that Lamar Jackson may be a bit of a ballpark for him in a sense of that's if he's getting that, maybe he wants a little bit more. I don't know, but I think he'll sit there and go, "Oh, Lamar Jackson's got this much. I want this much." You know.
One, I'm not convinced Lamar gets paid this season. I don't think they're going to come to a deal. His issue is that he is his own agent. So he said, I want this, and I don't think he's going to budge on that. And I'm not convinced that the Ravens are going to budge on that. So I think they're probably going to tag him this year. So I think if he wants to do a deal with, this is Jalen Hurts, wants to do a deal with the Eagles this offseason, then I don't think he can use Lamar Jackson particularly as a. My only question about Jalen Hurts is, like, I totally get it. He's a 3rd round pick. I'm sure he wants to get paid because he never ever expected. Well, he maybe did himself, but potentially he was never going to be in this situation. You know, as the 3rd round pick behind Wentz, who, you know, at one point was almost league MVP.
Yeah.
So he might want to get paid, but I also do wonder whether he will not do a team-friendly deal in that he doesn't get paid, you know, well, but I do wonder whether he does make some concessions in that respect. He just seems like the kind of guy that would want the best team around him so that they could succeed. You know, he seems to have this winning mentality about him. Now, him wanting to prove that he's one of the best in the league and get paid like that might override things. But I do have just this one question mark as to whether he may potentially consider that. He just seems to have that kind of character potentially, but I don't know.
Yeah, that would be huge for the Eagles as well, because they've also got to pay Darius Slay this year, and then next year they've got to pay Hassan Reddick, and they got to play Sweat as well. So they got a couple of their big names to pay. So if they could kind of run that by Jalen Hurts and say, look, we want to keep the band together, but you're going to have to help us out here. I mean, that would be massive for the Eagles. But you know, he does deserve a big payday as well. So I think I don't have as many, you know, doubts about him than I would, like you said, Lamar Jackson. I think they'll get a deal done this offseason. Pretty convinced of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk
Go
about
on,
Patrick.
Max.
Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Well, I mean, let's talk about the best player in the world. As he's marching down the field, you know, we get into late second half, and then, you know, Paul, you mentioned the worst thing possible, the ankle. And I just got it. I think I put into our group chat, it's like, not like this. It's like, just no, not like this. And then, thank goodness for Rihanna, right? That extended second half, like that's extended halftime. Because, yeah, he comes out in the second half. He throws one incomplete pass in the second half. Hits his mark every other time. Scored on every single drive. Rushed in the 3rd quarter for 15 yards grimacing, and then that you know run, he had that 30-yard run in the 4th quarter where he starts on the logo and he runs to inside the 20. I really feel like that we're kind of watching history there. Like that is a play that will be in Mahomes' highlight reel forever. It's just unbelievable to see the grit, the determination of this guy who's already supremely talented. Never mind, give him that kind of mental aspect as well. And he just killed the Eagles when he had the ball. The Chiefs only had the ball for 24 minutes for that game, and they just killed the Eagles with every second of it. And in terms of Mahomes, like, and just how great that he is, there have only been 3 players to win league MVP twice, 2 Super Bowls, and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. It's Joe Montana, Tom Brady, and Patrick Mahomes. He could retire tomorrow and be a Hall of Famer, and he's only 27, which is just unbelievable. Really, really, like, trying my best to just appreciate, you know, Patrick Mahomes while we have him here, because it's going to be a very long time if ever we see someone like him again. And the same goes for Andy Reid and that coaching staff. Andy Reid, the greatest defensive coach in the history of the NFL. Just an unbelievable play caller, unbelievable adjustments. I mean, you should not be able to do what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy did to the Philadelphia Eagles in the second half, there shouldn't be an acre of space for Kadarius Toney and then Sky Moore in the end zone. Like, that just should not happen. You see that in preseason, not the Super Bowl. Like, it shouldn't be possible, but these guys are geniuses. Steve Spagnuolo as well, they managed no sacks against Mahomes. That's what everyone was worried about. They nullified that threat from the Eagles. And you have to remember the amount of rookies and first-year players on this team and how many of those big plays came from them. Juju Smith-Schuster, first year on the team, came alive in the second half. Kadarius Toney, record-setting Super Bowl punt return. He only joined the team a couple of months ago. Isaiah Pacheco and Sky Moore, two rookies scoring touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Only ever been done once before in the history of it. I mean, it's just, you kind of run out of words to talk about how good these guys are. And that kind of leads me to my next question for you guys, right? And I thought long and hard about this one. I don't know the answer. Let's say you take Andy Reid and his staff, and you take Patrick Mahomes, and you put them on literally any other team in the NFL. Can they win a Super Bowl with the exact same roster, barring those moves? If that makes sense. What do you think, Paul?
Oh man, what a question!
Yeah, it's tricky, right?
I would say 30 of the teams they'd win it.
Yeah.
2, they wouldn't.
Which 2? The Texans was one I was like, yeah.
And the Cardinals.
No.
No, I'm not convinced of that. No.
No.
That is just my life, okay? My life is to give us the greatest coach, the best QB, the staff that comes with it, and we still wouldn't bloody win it, you know?
It's nothing to do with the players, just the Paul picking curse.
It's just because I'm a fan, you know?
Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would definitely say most, but I don't think I could say all.
Yeah, I couldn't quite, even myself, I couldn't quite bring myself to all, just because how bad that Texans team in particular is, and even that Bears team as well, not doing up much. So yeah, I think, but the majority, I think they could get it done. And the other second part of this is looking at this Chiefs team and, you know, the perceived lack of weapons and lack of talent and young players in this team. Do you think there's any other coach and quarterback combo that you could slot into this Chiefs team and they would win the Super Bowl with it? I'll go to you first this time, Hannah.
I'm not sure that I would say a QB coach combo that are on the same team, but I think potentially a QB coach combo. So I'm going to say Joe Burrow here. Could do. I do, but I'm not convinced of Zach Taylor. But I reckon you put Brian Daboll or something on there.
Yeah.
Off the go.
Brian Daboll, of course.
Same with Josh. I was going to say Josh Allen, but actually his weapons weren't great this year and he couldn't put the team on his back, to be honest. See, I think with a better O-line, Joe Burrow can do. He isn't Mahomes. You know, Mahomes is Mahomes. He's obviously there at the top. But I do think that Joe Burrow, personally, it is, my opinion, the second best quarterback in the league. Now, he might not be a runner per se, so, you know, like a Jalen Hurts-esque. Yeah. But I think the way that he processes the game and can read defenses and everything like that, I think is extremely impressive. And I think if your receivers can run to where they need to go, because I mean, their wide receivers aren't terrible, as we've just discussed. Like the Titans and the Bears have way worse weapons.
Yeah.
I think he would have enough to do what would need to be done. As I say, Mahomes is on another level. You know, you can't say that anybody is as good as Mahomes, but I don't think the roster was that terrible that you couldn't do something with it.
Yeah.
With a decent QB.
Absolutely. Paul, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I think there's a few QBs that could step into that team and win it, but I say there's a lot of QBs that wouldn't, because like you said, Mahomes is he's unreal. Like, you know what I mean? He is.
Yeah.
It's scary sometimes. You know what I mean? And we all went into this season going, oh, they've got no weapons. They've got rid of Tyreek Hill. They've got, and somehow he's still, and I don't think he's had the season. I don't think there's a wide receiver this season that has finished in the top 10, is there?
Nope.
You know what I mean? But yet somehow the guy's got over 5,000 yards, and
yeah, there have been 8 wide receivers or receivers in the Chiefs team that have got over 250 yards, which I think is an NFL record. 8 players over 250 yards.
But I do think that having lost Hill has made him better, because he is having to distribute the ball more to different players. And I think it's made him have to take what defenses are giving him. I mean, he's amazing, obviously, at, extending the plays and finding things that aren't necessarily going to be there. But I do think, and maybe this was Tyreek Hill last year because he was getting grumpy and kicking off and stuff, but I think he was forcing stuff to Tyreek Hill last year, which was, I think, making him and the team not as good as they could and should have been. And I think him not having that on the team anymore and just having to go with where things can or do need to go has made a massive difference.
I completely agree. And the last sort of point that I have about the Chiefs before we kind of move on to our next talking point is we have to remember there were 10 rookies playing in that game. 10. Like, this is a young team.
Yeah.
Which is...
I was going to say, isn't that like some kind of record that they've got the most rookies playing in a Super Bowl and stuff like that? It was just unreal.
Yeah. So this was meant to be the year the Chiefs were vulnerable and you could get at the Chiefs. And now going into 23, the Chiefs have got all the 2023 picks. They've got an extra 4th round pick that they can use as, can draft someone, or they could use it to move up. So we're just getting started here. And I have to quote again, I've done this already this week or last week, but Mitch Holthus, the legendary voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, you'll have heard it in the build-up. He said, you can doubt the Chiefs, you can dislike the Chiefs, you can disrespect the Chiefs, but you're going to have to deal with the Chiefs. And people might dislike us and they might still disrespect us because, knuckle draggers out there still think the referee won it for the Eagles. But no one's going to doubt this team again because we've got the best player in the world. We got the best coach in the world. We got the best fans in the world, right?
No, I'm not sure I agree with that. The thing that does make me laugh, though, is that Chief fans have this thing, it's us against the world. Everyone hates the Chiefs. No. Basically, people get bored of the same team winning all the time. Like, I genuinely think that. And it's nothing like against the Chiefs. Everyone knows that Mahomes is amazing, but people like to root for the underdog. And I think sometimes that Chiefs fans, I'm not necessarily saying it's all of them, but think that this is like a personal slight against the Chiefs. And it really isn't. Like, everyone got bored when Brady and the Patriots were winning all the time. Like, they just want the underdog to win because they want someone else to win, and their teams are shit, and they hate seeing the same team winning and getting 6 rings and whatever because they want their team to do that. So sometimes I think it's a bit this, everyone hates the shit. And I don't think necessarily that's true. It's just that people get bored of the same people winning all the time. And they want Mahomes on their team.
I think you're spot on there, Hannah. They want Mahomes or Joe Burrow, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Absolutely. And Hannah, so you predicted an Eagles win, which, as we know, was incorrect. And you thought Kelsey would have more receiving yards than AJ Brown. AJ Brown actually had 96 receiving yards. A lot of that came on that one unbelievable throw from Jalen Hurts, though. So not getting any of those right. But tell us what you thought about the game.
Oh, I blooming loved it. I thought it was great. Yeah. The thing is, like, as a neutral, this was like the perfect game. It was like all the drama going up and down the field, punch after punch. You never kind of knew who was going to win. And we kind of thought this was going to be the game kind of going into it. That the betting line was so close that everyone thought this was going to be a trading punches game. And it really was. But I have to say, I do feel massively for the Eagles because as a Bengal fan, I was in exactly the same situation last season. So many times on Twitter and Instagram, I saw that image of Jamar Chase running down the field with the corner, I forget his name now, on the floor. And like if Joe Burrow had like 1 second more, it was a go-ahead touchdown and we'd have won. So, and the Eagles totally had their opportunities, but it's still gutting when it comes down to the wire. Same with us last week. They did some stupid things, exactly the same as we did. That penalty did the same as we had. Kind of gave not gave the Chiefs the win, but they lost their chance to try and do that counter attack, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it kind of felt like a little bit of an anticlimax at the end after they'd been trading these punches all the way through. But you can't knock the Chiefs. I think they played a complete game, and it wasn't just Patrick Mahomes carrying everyone on his back. I don't believe that was how it was in this game, which in some potentially games earlier in the season or, ones that we've discussed previously, it has all been Mahomes kind of dragging everyone along with him. In this game, it wasn't at all. Pacheco got going with the run game. Yeah. Obviously, the defense had some big stops and also that pick six. Everyone kind of showed up and did their part. And I think it really was a true team win. And I think they're often the best and most impressive wins. And obviously, like you say, Kadarius Toney's kind of punt return, really set them up in good stead as well. So the whole lot came, the 32nd ranked special teams came up in the Super Bowl. So it was all of them, offense, defense, special teams. They all came together and got the win. And I think sometimes they're the best and most impressive wins. I do have to say, I think the Eagles really showed everybody who said, they had such an easy schedule, they cruised to the Super Bowl, they're not really that good. I think they put all of that to rest. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and they very nearly took it. Had Jalen Hurts protected the ball and not lost it, they most likely would have won. But, I mean, we can never definitely say that, but it was all about protecting the ball, isn't it? And he didn't do that. But he did play a blinder of a game, as we've discussed. Yeah. I was so impressed with him. He has a very mature head on his body, and afterwards he was really reflective, and I thought they took the defeat with grace. But, you got to give it to the Chiefs. They know when to step it up and when not to. And obviously they did exactly what they needed to do to get the win. I do think if we'd have said, or we'd have discussed this before the game, that Patrick Mahomes only completed 21 of 27 passes and got 182 yards, and the defense gave up 35 points, I don't think we would have believed that they would have won. But, it was the whole team coming together. So kudos to them. And I'm sure you're super happy, Mags, and you can celebrate that for
Delighted.
A year until next year when the Bengals are going to win, right?
Bengals versus Cardinals.
Oh, that's definitely not going to happen. But you can hope, all right. So let's have a look at our prediction scoreboard, shall we? Well, I was a complete disaster this week because I scored 0. So I am the Paul of the week. And actually, Mags and Paul were tied first with 1 point. So congratulations, although I'm not sure we should be celebrating that really. So of course, let's have a look at our hit rewind moment of the week. So let's have a look at what our favourite moments were from the game. Go on, Mags, it was your team, so I'll let you go first.
Well, it has to be Harrison Butker kicking the winning field goal, right? It couldn't be anything else. That's the thing I'm going to watch over and over and over again. I mean, what a year Butker's had with the injury, with the kind of a really weird stretch in the middle of the season where he was missing things that he normally wouldn't. And I was so nervous then. I can't imagine how the guy who actually has to kick the ball feels. And he still just slammed it through the middle of the posts. Just what a moment for him. And yeah, I absolutely love that. I do have a special mention, which I'll get to in case you guys don't say it, though. So, Paul, what was yours?
Mine was really, really difficult to pick because there was a lot of good things that happened in this game. There was a lot of good plays and everything like that. But mine was the Dallas Goddard catch that he caught in between like two players and stuff like that. That was just unreal catch for me.
Amazing.
Unreal catch. But there was a lot I could choose from, and we've mentioned a lot of them, so it was a difficult choice. Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't quite decide from two, but again, we've discussed both of them really. So one has to be the Kadarius Toney punt return, a record for the Super Bowl, and it really kind of swung the momentum for the Chiefs there. So, I mean, that has to be one. And then I will do another mention for the AJ Brown. It was his touchdown, that Barman catch. I just thought were great, really good fun. So I enjoyed both of those things. Mags, have we mentioned your honourable mention?
No, you did. Well, it's sort of obviously the one we talked about earlier, that history-making run from Patrick Mahomes, but also like a special shout out to Jerick McKinnon. So Jerick McKinnon in the Super Bowl has the ball in his hands and has a walk-in touchdown, and the veteran savviness of him to know, not getting carried away and try and score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, to go and slide and hit the ground and realizing that running the clock is more important than scoring the points. That was massive for the Kansas City Chiefs because they were able to take, over a minute off the clock because of that decision from Jerick McKinnon. So real veteran move there from him.
Yeah, that was perfection because that was they won the game with that. They won the game with that because the Eagles had no timeouts and they run that clock down to 11 seconds. You know what I mean? If he'd have gone in, you'd have been giving the Eagles the ball back with a minute on the clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a minute on the clock in NFL terms is an awful long time, And so to me, that he won them that game with that kneel there,
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to mention that. Sorry.
Agree.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, I don't know if it was this season or the season before, there was one where I think it was Nick Chubb and he should have gone down and he got carried away and then went in the end zone. And I think they ended up losing the game from that. And there was a whole thing about, he should have gone down,
Was it Todd Gurley? I remember Todd Gurley doing it.
He tried to stop.
He tried to stop by the one, didn't he? And rolled into the end zone. And I think Saquon Barkley's done it this year as well, hasn't he? Was it this year or was that last year? He did it where he slid at the bottom and it was a game winning. If they'd have gone in, it was a touchdown. But if he slid, it was, we've got the first. Now we can just kneel. End of game,
Yeah.
Savvy.
I wonder if that was in London. Anyway. Let's talk awards. I mean, to be honest, I'm not even sure we even need to talk about this, but we'll mention it because, of course, Patrick Mahomes was crowned Super Bowl MVP. Do we all agree? I mean,
I think if Nick Bolton, like if that second scoop and score would have stood, that Nick Bolton would have been in with a shout, but obviously it was ruled out. So it had to be Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah.
How do you not give it to Patrick Mahomes? The guy played the second half on 1 foot, like I think you mentioned it earlier, Mags. Jalen Hurts definitely put in an MVP performance.
Yeah.
You could mention Nick Bolton. You could, Jerick McKinnon. That slide there won them the game. You know what I mean? I don't think it's MVP worthy, but there's a lot of names, but nobody was even on the same level as Pat Mahomes in that game.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I know, that's it. I think what makes it even more impressive is that obviously he played 90% of the playoffs with a busted ankle and still managed to win the Super Bowl. So I know it's based on the Super Bowl, but come on, like this guy is otherworldly, isn't he, really? So I don't think there is any kind of doubt that he deserved to win. Paul, did you watch the Super Bowl halftime show or were you too busy being at the bar?
I watched the first song, maybe.
Oh, so you guys are no good to talk about it.
I lost completely. So, okay. The Super Bowl show, I love the Super Bowl halftime show. But last year, we were given the absolute peak of anything you will ever see in a Super Bowl halftime show. Okay.
Yes.
And there's been some great people. Okay. There's been some great names in this, and you could talk about some iconic Super Bowl halftime show moments. This was not great. Okay. Not a big fan of Rihanna. And it, I like what they did with their up and downs and all of that stuff, but
Yeah.
I was watching it going, we had Dr. Dre last year. Okay, we had Dr. Dre, we had Snoop Dogg, we had, Eminem and stuff like this. And I'm going, I'm going to go to the bar, get another vodka. Let's go. And some chicken wings. I got some chicken wings at halftime as well.
Oh, classic. No, I kind of missed a lot of it as well, but it's because I had to go. I warmed myself up some pizza, made myself a coffee, and it was just kind of generally hyperventilating at halftime. So I caught some of it. My main thing, I was like, I kind of forgot just how many massive hits Rihanna had. The part I listened to, I was like, it was pretty good. Love the visuals of it. And, she's pregnant the whole time. So, I mean, hats off. Like, that is
kudos to doing it pregnant. Like, you know what I mean?
I thought, kudos for doing pregnant. But for me personally, I just thought she looked bored literally the whole time. And, like, she didn't even really want to be there. And, like, I don't mind that you're pregnant and maybe you don't want to dance. But she'd do this little half-ass, like, oh, I'll move my foot. Oh, I'll move my arm. But I was like, you actually look like you really don't want to be here. Like, I do like some of her hits, some of them are, real smashes. Everyone loves dancing to them, whatever. But I was like, I didn't really appreciate them too much. I didn't really enjoy it. I was disappointed, to be honest. And The Athletic rated this the third ever, like the third best Super Bowl halftime show ever. I was like, no.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, no, this needs to go right at the bottom of the pile. I thought it was rubbish. But each to their own, I suppose. I don't mind her, but I thought it's a bit crap.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from that. No one wants to hear about Rihanna, do they? So, of course, we will be digging into this a lot more in the off season. So, just a spoiler alert, everyone, we will be still coming in your ears every Monday evening, all throughout the off season. So, don't switch off. Keep listening. But I would like to.
There's a show title right there, right? Coming in your ears.
Please tell me that you've watched Peter Kay. Please tell me.
No, but I might have to now.
Well, one of his, we won't go too much off on this tangent, but one of his characters is a DJ for Charlie FM, and he always says, "Coming in your ears." So anyway, we'll move on, right? So, just remember to listen. Keep listening, that's all.
Yeah.
But as I say, we will be discussing this a lot more moving forward. But I would like to talk a little bit about the future of these teams and basically what they need to do to get back to this exact spot again next season. So let's start with the Eagles, right? What do you think this team needs to do to get themselves back to the Super Bowl next season and this time actually go all the way and win the Lombardi Trophy? Now, I was going to get Paul in here, but he seems to be unable to stop himself laughing. So we'll move on to Mags. So Mags, what do you think the Eagles will need to do to get themselves back to Super Bowl and potentially win the Lombardi next season?
Oh, man. Well, I think a huge thing for the Eagles is going to be they're potentially going to have to replace their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. That's going to be massive. Like, they have to get the right people involved there. They might lose them to the Colts, Panthers, or whoever else needs a head coach, which is a lot of the league. So they've got all the talent there. They've got all the players they need there. They've got the luxury of being able to just draft the best player available. And they got a really high, I don't know exactly where it is, but they've got a really, really high draft pick available in this next draft. And I am terrified that a result of the Super Bowl and their run game getting absolutely shut down means that they're just going to go screw it and draft Bijan Robinson. That terrifies me, because if they do that, that's a scary, scary, scary offense.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% think that Miles Sanders is done in there at the end of this season. Like, I think he shared carries with Gainwell. Like, I think if they were wanting to keep him, I kind of feel like, although this might not have been the case, but just based on watching their last few games, I kind of feel like they've been phasing him out. That's what it's kind of felt like. That the data might not show that's the case, but that's really what it's felt like. Like they've been like, oh, we're not good, we're going to start let these other ones kind of get some carries and touches and stuff, see what we've got for the future. And I think he's done in Philly next year. So you might be right, Mags. Bijan might not have a new home. It'd be really interesting. Right. Like, I think it would be really cool, but in a way, I kind of think he might be wasted a bit in Philly. Yeah. Just because obviously having Hurts, I think that's going to take some of his Bijan's potential upside away. But having that extra threat, we say that, CMC, what he's done in San Fran. So it'd be really interesting. Really interesting. Paul, have you composed yourself? What do you think the Eagles need to do to get back to Super Bowl next season?
I had a bit of a laughing fit that just tickled me. I kind of agree with what Mags is saying. I believe their offensive coordinator is going to the Colts, is he? I think that's expected to be announced today, maybe. I don't know. I've just heard that they're basically ready to announce that he's going and stuff like that. And that can really affect the mentality of the whole team and stuff like that. I also think they need to make sure that they can hold on to. Don't quote me on any of the contracts and stuff, but I know like somebody like Jason Kelsey's out of contract this year, isn't he? I believe he signed a 1-year deal last year, and he's a player that's been so good for them this year, and in a very key position there. So if you lose somebody like that, does that change a lot for that O line? Does a player like that change everything for you and the people around you and stuff like that? So I think it is holding on to a few key players. But I am a bit worried about with all these picks they've got. They can trade them away and get capital, but there is that risk of they go and get the ultimate weapon, hey? But I do agree, if they get Bijan, though, I do agree that I feel like he'll be a little bit wasted there. I think time will tell how it plays out, doesn't it?
Yeah, and actually looking at it, they've got quite a few of their defensive players out of contract, coming up this off season. So they're going to need to start thinking about, how they're going to set up this defense going forward. And obviously, if they lose their DC, fingers crossed it goes to Arizona, because I want to keep Ludini in Cincinnati. Then they might start actually looking at changing it a little bit, depending on who the new DC is. So I think that's kind of really interesting to see what they do there, because I think that will really kind of dictate how their season goes next season. So I'll be looking at the defense, I think, and seeing how that kind of pieces together. So let's move on and look at the Chiefs then. They do have a few free agents on the offense, which may or may not make a difference. Orlando Brown at left tackle, Juju, McCall, Hardman. So what do we think this team is going to look like next season, and what does it need to do to get them back in the Super Bowl next season? Go on, Max.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that a deal can be made with Orlando Brown. I think he's a really key part of that. That whole unit. I think keeping that unit together is really, really important for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think there will be a deal worked out. They tried last year to work out a deal with Orlando Brown and couldn't quite get it done. There seemed to be no hard feelings, between anyone. He played, obviously, the majority of the games this year, majority of the snaps. So I think something will be done. I think you got to strike now. You just won a Super Bowl. Like, that guy is delighted to be there. I think you jump in right away. If you're Veach there, you just kind of jump in, get that contract sorted as soon as possible. Juju Smith-Schuster, he had a good, obviously, second half of that Super Bowl, but I don't think he's done enough to command the wages that he's going to ask for. I don't think the Chiefs will pay him that. I think somebody will. I'm not sure who, but I think he'll get better offers from other teams. Now, the Chiefs might say, look, we'll offer you a really team-friendly deal on maybe a 2-year contract and take it or leave it, Juju. But I think he'll probably go and try and get paid a little bit more, which, you know, a lot of people would do as well. McCall Hardman sucks. He can go. So, yeah, I would really like the Chiefs to attack that wide receiver position in the draft. Like I said, they got all the draft picks plus an extra 4th round. Could move up. Could use someone like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire if anyone wants him as kind of a piece to try and trade. I would love the Chiefs to move up and get someone like a Jackson Smith and Jigba or a Jordan Addison. That would be amazing for this team.
Paul, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe you asked Mags a question about what the Chiefs need to do next year with like 7 or 8 minutes left in the show.
I know.
You need easily half. You should, you know, ask him that on the 30-minute mark next time, yeah, because he needs a lot longer to talk about it.
I know.
I kept it done. I kept it done.
I wish I had the answer to this because, you know, last year or last offseason when they traded Tyreek Hill away, I was like, they're going to really miss him and stuff like this. And what you think you know about the Chiefs is completely wrong because it doesn't really matter who they've got on the field. As long as 15 stood there throwing the ball, anything can happen to that team, can't it? But no, I do think it'd be interesting. I'm quite interested to see what happens to Juju. I think does he go for a big money contract and potentially drop to a lower ranked team, or does he take what the Chiefs will offer him if they do offer him something and think, do you know what? I'm not going to earn a big money contract, but I'm potentially going to go back to the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
What do you do with it? And I think we've gone through a whole show without mentioning the fact that, is it Melvin Gordon's getting a ring?
Oh, I forgot to mention that because I saw that on Twitter. It was hilarious. He did absolutely nothing, and he's there with the Lombardi, like
cigar.
Yeah, it was amazing. I actually loved it.
Man. Melvin Gordon, I mean, yeah, fantastic.
I had to get that one in quick. Sorry.
Same with Rojo. I mean, he hardly did anything either, did he? I am interested. Like, I think Mahomes is just going to cover any kind of cracks. You know, Mahomes is just fantastic. But it would be really interesting to see if they do move on from Juju and they potentially have this very young wide receiver room, whether that kind of affects them a bit in terms of, you know, they're young, they're just learning the system. Are they going to run the wrong routes? You know, are we potentially going to have some teething problems? You know, Sky Moore didn't really contribute as much as we wanted him to this season. So he probably needs to really step up big. And is he going to be able to do that or not? I think it would be nice for them to have some sort of veteran in there, you know, just to kind of hold that room together. But we'll see what they decide to do going into the off season, really.
The market is empty. That's the problem. Juju's the best option in the free agent market. It's him. I think maybe Paris Campbell and one of the Patriots wide receivers. I can't remember who. So it's not massive.
You can probably get Hopkins if you want. You can have Hopkins.
I'll do.
He'd be all right for a year or two while you're bringing up those rookies. I think that would be quite
perfect.
Well, I think
Mahomes and Hopkins would be awesome.
I think he'd take it as well.
Yeah, and I don't think necessarily he'd be as selfish as Hill. I think he'd be happy to, you know, get what he's given. I think he'd like a ring. So
there we go.
I think
you heard it here first.
Given from Mahomes. That'd be really cool, actually. Yeah, I like that idea, Paul. You've got some good ones occasionally.
Yeah. I was due one. I haven't had a good one for a couple of weeks, so I was due one.
Anybody have any final thoughts on the Super Bowl before we wrap things up?
Jalen Hurts, do us a favor. You're really good at running the ball. You can rush anything and do whatever, but please have a better attempt at a Hail Mary next time, yeah, bro?
I know. I think
Go
on, Max.
No, I was going to say absolutely right. And for the Chiefs side, I'm just like, see him again next year, guys. I'll see you next year. Well, I'm wearing the same shades, wearing the same top, and we'll do it all again.
I promise now I won't be on the Super Bowl preview show next year if it's the Chiefs. I can't listen to him talk that much again about the Chiefs, okay?
I know, but the fear is he's got Mahomes, so it's going to happen. But This brings us to the end of the show and to the end of the 2022 NFL season. So, as usual, thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to go and find us on Twitter at Wildcard Rewind, and we might be asking for some of your guys' assistance later on in the off season, so keep your eyes peeled on Twitter. So now that the season is over, we will be spending the off season rewinding 2022 and fast forwarding to 2023. So next week